This is an individual who selfishly had issues with his wife and unfortunately took his 2 children's life along with his.
What a story to share with you this morning. A 10-year wedding anniversary trip turns to tragedy in Miami. Police say a man tossed his children off a hotel balcony and followed them to his death. We will cover that story more in depth for you a little later in the morning. Good morning to you from the CNN Center in Atlanta. I'm Melissa Long in this morning for Betty Nguyen.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Tony Harris. More on those children killed in just a moment. But first, a quick look at some other stories making news right now. The crisis in Indonesia persists. The number of dead from this latest earthquake approaches 4,000. Survivors dig through the rubble looking for clothing, food, anything. Overnight, survivors slept outdoors in any space available. Hundreds of aftershocks rattle the region. We'll have a live update from the U.S. ambassador to Indonesia in about 30 minutes.
In Israel, former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon has been moved to a long-term care facility in Tel Aviv. He has been at the hospital, as you know, since suffering a massive stroke in early January. Doctors say treating the 78-year-old will be a long and difficult process. In Poland, Pope Benedict is wrapping up his 4-day visit to the country with a mass in Krakow and a visit to the former concentration camp at Auschwitz. At 20 minutes after the hour, we'll have live pictures of the Pope's visit.
If a picture's worth 1,000 words, a picture of the new baby of these 2 Hollywood stars is worth more than $1 million. Brangelina had a baby girl last night in Namibia. Photographers are swarming trying to get that first baby pic. We'll have a live report from Africa later this hour. And remember, for complete coverage of breaking news and today's top stories, stay with CNN, the most trusted name in news. A top story this hour: shock, horror, confusion, anger in South Florida. Emotions run high for an Illinois woman following the deaths of her 2 young boys at the hands of their father. Vanessa Ruiz of CNN affiliate WSVN has the inexplicable story in Miami Beach.
What was supposed to be a holiday weekend celebrating 10 years of marriage ended in a shocking tragedy nobody could have imagined. An Illinois couple, along with their 2 young children, in town celebrating their 10th wedding anniversary. They were staying here at the posh Lowe's Hotel in South Beach, which is full with Memorial Day vacationers. It was around 8:30 when the mother heard one of her children screaming from an adjacent hotel room on the 15th floor. When she walked into the room, she saw her husband going over the balcony. It was then when she looked over the railing and saw the bodies of her 2 young sons, ages 4 and 8, and that of her husband lying on the mezzanine roof.
This is an individual who selfishly had issues with his wife and unfortunately took his 2 children's life along with his.
According to Miami Beach police, the woman told them the couple had been having marital problems for the past 6 months.
We have checked with both hotel rooms, the ones immediately next door and in front, if they had heard maybe any screaming, any arguments, any disturbances before the incident, and everybody said no. The only thing they heard was the mother screaming after she had discovered her husband and 2 sons dead on the mezzanine level of the hotel.
The woman did not suffer any physical injuries and told police she doesn't know why her husband did something like this. Now, all that remains is a tragic ending, a family shattered, and one question: why?
And again, that was Vanessa Ruiz of CNN affiliate WSVN in Miami. Miami police say no suicide note was found in the hotel room and that police were searching the couple's Illinois home for a possible note.
Now to New England, a pleasure boat ride ends with some tense moments. The Coast Guard rescued 5 people last night about 250 miles from Nantucket Island. Their 36-foot boat was battered by rough seas 3 days into their cruise. A Coast Guard helicopter picked up the group after the captain issued a mayday.
The major thing in this case was they were 250 miles east of Nantucket. They were very isolated. The Coast Guard launched an A-25 Falcon airplane to provide cover while an H-860 rescue helicopter out of Air Station Cape Cod and a C-130 were to arrive on scene. And that took roughly a few hours for them to get out there. So the Falcon provided cover, and then once the helo arrived on scene, they carried out a hoist and rescued all 5 individuals from the sail vessel.
Coast Guard officials tell us all of those rescued are okay this morning. And now to Washington, a power struggle is playing out between the Justice Department and Congress. At issue, an FBI raid on a congressman's office. It has led to a revolt by lawmakers of both parties and a threat by 3 top justice officials to resign. Live now to the White House and correspondent Ed Henry. Ed?
Good morning, Melissa. That's right. Really amazing drama here, all sparked by last Saturday night's unprecedented raid of Democratic Congressman William Jefferson's congressional office in connection with a bribery investigation. Republican House Speaker Dennis Hastert was furious about this, charging it was an abuse of executive power, that it was unconstitutional. He was lobbying President Bush directly all last week, saying he wanted these seized documents from Jefferson's office turned back to Congress. But now CNN has learned that 3 top officials, Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, FBI Director Robert Mueller, and the Deputy Attorney General Paul McNulty, all threatened late last week to resign in protest if President Bush decided to turn these documents back to the Congress. Despite all the wrangling, all the anger back and forth, legal analysts, though, say they believe this search was lawful.
The evidence is likely to be legal because, number one, a search warrant was executed. Remember that Mr. Jefferson ignored a subpoena. There have been efforts for the past 8 months to have him produce documents. Once they weren't, a federal district judge approved a search warrant.
Now, President Bush was able to stave off these potential resignations, at least for now, late last week by ordering this 45-day freeze on the documents while all of the legal and constitutional challenges are sorted out. Obviously, this has now shifted the focus to some Republican infighting instead of what it was originally about, a Democratic investigation of corruption. But I suspect the focus is going to shift back eventually. Let's not forget, Congressman Jefferson allegedly had some $90,000 in cash in his freezer. He has denied wrongdoing, but he certainly has a lot of explaining to do, Melissa.
Ed Henry live in Washington. Of course, that is a story we'll continue to follow throughout the day and throughout the next week. Yeah, a lot of drama there in Washington. Well, this weekend, of course, America is remembering the brave men and women who serve in the military. One couple shared with us the tragedy of losing their son in Afghanistan last June. Their story is coming up in about 25 minutes.
Plus, a tracking device on your teenager's car? Is that going a bit too far? We put that question to a child behavior expert. And Reynolds, maybe it's something we might consider down the road, 18 years from now?
Maybe so. Thank heavens my parents didn't have that kind of technology when I was a kid. Scary stuff, to say the very least. Speaking of driving, we got a big race today in Indianapolis. We're going to tell you what kind of weather you can expect out there by the racetrack. And here's a live image that we have from WISH in Indianapolis. Kind of a gloomy morning for the time being, but we are expecting some sunshine, but also a chance of rain. Your complete forecast is coming up right here on CNN in just a moment.
CNN Sunday Morning is brought to you by Ortho's season-long grass and weed killer. One application kills and prevents weeds all season.
This is Ortho's season-long grass and weed killer. It works like this. With one easy spray, it kills existing weeds and forms a protective barrier to prevent new ones. All season long. Ordinary weed killers don't prevent weeds. So staying weed-free all season means spraying month after month after month, using up to 5 times as much weed killer. Ortho season long. All weeds, all gone, all season, guaranteed.
Our workday never ends. I'm not saying our people don't go home or have lives, but ending our workday here doesn't stop our best thinking from moving forward someplace else.
Dynamic networking from AT&T enables collaboration around the world and the clock, so Allen's company is always ahead of market demands, schedules, and the competition. The new AT&T, your world delivered.
Good morning to you on this Memorial Day weekend. We would love to hear your thoughts this weekend on who are you honoring this Memorial Day. The email address to reach us, weekends@cnn.com. I want to take a moment to share one of the responses we've received. I am honoring my dad, Lawrence Young of Oakland, Maine, who served for 22 years in the military, including Korea and Vietnam. Lori Emerson goes on to say, I'm also honoring my husband, Arnold Emerson, who served for 25 years, and my son, Peter, who served for 8 years in the Army and has just returned home safely from Afghanistan. Lori Emerson, thank you so much for writing us this morning. What wonderful news to hear about your son. We'll be right back.
What is that? So that's what you guys are doing while I'm gone?
No, don't think on me.
Oh, that was a good one. That's a funny kiss. That sure is a funny kiss.
I love you, Mommy. We give Mommy a big kiss.
Aw, I love you, baby. I'll see you soon. Mwah. Mwah.
Tell me, energy companies, tell me what's behind the price of gas.
Tell me why world demand for crude oil
determines what I pay.
What I pay at the pump.
Tell me, how will I be able to drive my kids to school?
To school.
To work.
To work.
Tell me.
Tell me where my energy will come from. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth.
Tell me how you're investing in this country.
Researching alternative fuels.
Tell me what you're doing.
And what I can
do. Tell me more about the future of energy.
Ask questions, get answers from America's oil and natural gas industry.
This is Paul.
Guys, found the house.
He backtests moving averages differently than Raj, who drags and drops nothing like Anne, who trades options a lot more often than Hal, who places conditional orders differently than George, who celebrates in his own special way. And thanks to Fidelity Active Trader Services, they all get power, price, service, no compromises.
Let's go.
Trading with Fidelity. Smart move.
You're watching CNN Sunday Morning on CNN, the news channel trusted by more Americans.
And let's get you up to speed on this morning's top stories. In Miami Beach, investigators are trying to figure out why a man would kill his children, then himself, while on a trip celebrating his 10th wedding anniversary. It happened yesterday. Police say the man threw his 4- and 8-year-old sons to their deaths from a hotel balcony, then jumped behind them. Pope Benedict leading Mass in Poland this morning. Later, he'll visit the Auschwitz concentration camp. Then it's back to Rome. The pontiff spent the last 4 days visiting with believers, encouraging them to honor the late Pope John Paul's memory by being beacons of faith for all of Europe. Back in the U.S., it's official. The Edmonton Oilers are in the Stanley Cup Finals. A little sports for you this morning. They beat the Anaheim Mighty Ducks 2-1. It will be the Oilers' first shot at the Cup in 16 years.
Graduation night, prom night, or just about any night, it can be a nightmare for parents of teenage drivers, worrying about them driving to events, teen parties, or who knows where else. As we hear from Betty Nguyen, one Atlanta mom has resolved some of that worry.
Well, it first started as a safety issue. Carjacking was always one of my worst fears for her. I'm sure she wasn't real pleased with it in the beginning because she thought it was more of a spy issue.
The startling statistics are out there. In 2004, nearly 6,000 16 to 20-year-olds were killed in car wrecks. But now, you may be able to lower the stress over where your child is with a little high-tech help. There are a number of products now on the market to help you keep tabs on teens. All the devices use GPS, global positioning satellites. They can track a car minute by minute to within a few feet of its current location.
They're heading on 23, going in this direction, according to this map. And it'll tell you the coordinates of their position, and it'll tell you the speed that they were traveling, which is 44 miles per hour. And also, it'll give you an address range of where they were at this point.
And the best part, you can hide it inside any vehicle. Alerts are sent to your computer, email, cell phone, or pager. DriveOK.com offers instant mapping of your teen's vehicle location and speed. It tracks anywhere in the U.S. and Canada and even Mexico. And it can set boundaries like an electronic invisible fence and alert you if your child crosses those boundaries. The Land Air Sea 3100 unit can accurately track travel with proof of exact date, time, speed, and location. As VehicleTracking.com puts it, it's like having your own private investigator for a fraction of the cost.
I do drive my friends a lot, and their parents love that I have it. They love that my mom knows where I am, and then they know that their kids are safe with me.
So would you keep track of your teenage driver with a GPS device? Would you tell them about it? Let's talk about some privacy issues. Our guest you may recognize from the syndicated PBS program, Let's Talk. She is Dr. Gail Gross, noted expert, author, lecturer on juvenile education and behavior. Gail Gross joins us live from Houston this morning. Thanks so much for your time.
Good morning, Melissa. Thank you.
Let me just first off, good, bad idea?
Well, like everything, there's good and there's bad. It's good in that if your children agree to it and they're involved in the conversation, you're connecting with them, you're teaching them how to be responsible, then it becomes a consequence, responsibility issue. They're invested in the consequences, and you're teaching them maturity.
So you're saying talk to them about it.
Talk to them about it.
Because the story alluded to the fact that you can actually tuck that little technology in the car and he or she wouldn't even know about it.
Well, that's spying and surveillance. Then you're teaching them something else. You're teaching them not to trust themselves, not to trust you, not to trust others. As a result, what happens from that is they learn how to cheat. They believe everybody is cheating. So you don't want to do that. You want them to grow up, to be self-monitoring. You want them to, in a sense, develop a self-actualized intrinsic reward for doing the right thing. You know, these surveillance techniques are not gatekeepers. They're not, they have their flaws. Children can outrun them, outsmart them, even on the web. All those things that we do to protect our children, children can undo. They are very savvy, and they're very involved with their peer group, and they can stop that car, go with somebody else in another car. So you want to bring them into the conversation because that is a relationship issue.
Dr. Gross, let's talk about that conversation. I know you have a grown son now, but let's go back a few years in time. Put yourself at the kitchen table with him. How would you talk to a teen about putting this technology in the car and why you're doing it?
Great, Melissa, because we had that conversation. You know, when your child has more opportunity to do more things if they, and my son in particular, was worthy of that trust. When they show you they're doing the right thing, you can give them more trust, and ultimately they mature and self-actualize. That's individuation. That's what you want from a child. And the most important thing is that you have that connection with your child, that you have that connection with their conscience. You're developing that intrinsic conscience.
We're almost out of time, but I just want to wrap up with talking about independence, because when you're a teen, you of course want your independence. You want to have that journal that you know mom or dad isn't looking in, and that really parlays into this. You have to give the kid, you have to give this young adult some room.
That's right. You know, adolescence is a most dangerous time of your life.